Thank you, Damon and Craig. It's with you. It's both of your hard work that allows small businesses like us, gives us the venue to sit down and talk about our problems and our issues, and actually mentor us in some of the issues that we have. To get started, this is a kind of a unique panel that we have today. I'm very honored to be here to help moderate this panel. The theme here is fun, and those that have been in Buffalo have seen, in my opinion, at least in my opinion, we've seen a change in what Western New York has to offer. These three individuals that are here today to talk about what they're doing in Western New York should give us an insight on small businesses and something that probably, I would assume, none of us are into. For many of us, or for many people, work can be a four-letter word. But for these three individuals, it's a three-letter word, and it's fun.
Is this where I sneak in?
Absolutely.
I see there's a spot for me.
I didn't want to trip over the cord or over people.
She's a quarter of the people.
So to get started, what I think would be most helpful is if each one of you can give a little background about what you do, who you are, what you do. From there.
So a little background. I am a professional oddball. A couple minutes on. I guess I should explain that. My background is juggling, clowning, mime, theater, dance. I traveled with a circus, and so performing arts, but also education. I have a master's in education, and I ended up marrying those two things, performing and education, and I do a lot of programs in schools, and then I started doing more teaching and training things. That's loose. So that's kind of my background. Performing, speaking, and being an oddball.
My name is Jason Schwinger. I have a background in office cubicles and in non-corner offices. I started life in...
I think you gotta hold it. There we go.
Okay. So started life as a marketing guy with a biology background as well. The day-to-day, the 9 to 5 was driving crazy. I moved back to Buffalo. Saw that I realized after living here most of my life that it was a city on the water. No one was taking advantage of that. So I poked around and asked a couple of questions, and now I'm overdressed. I usually have board shorts, flip-flops on year-round, running a kayak shack downtown, and a distillery in the odd hours. So I kind of refused to work in an office and found a way to not do that. That's me.
Shorts and flip-flops in January?
The distillery is one.
Okay. Hi. I'm Christina, DeNee. I'm also kind of a blend with both of you guys. I refuse to work a job. And I'm a performer, but I'm a multimedia artist, I guess you could say. I'm a caricature artist and designer. I have a company called BigHeadCartoon, so I draw. I entertain at restaurants a few times a week. I do a lot of birthday parties, corporate events, weddings, wherever they pay me to go, really. But I also have an online store, so it's called BigHeadCartoon.com, and I draw caricatures and I design logos and lots of different stuff for different companies around the country, which has been a blessing. So they keep kind of writing me, and I keep providing them what they're asking for. But I also am a singer-songwriter and a performer, so entertaining was really my gift that I felt I had in my life, and kind of married the both of them together, so that I'm in a pop rock duo called BreakerBox, and we have our own recording studio, we retain our own publishing, and we release our own recordings, we produce our own concerts, and we obtain sponsorship through different companies and produce concerts for like Red Bull and Heineken, and we're bringing all that to Western New York and then other cities as well. So I don't sleep, but it's I get to do things I really have a passion for every day, and not always the easiest thing in the world, but it's truly the only thing I know how to do. So I'm always inspired to meet other people that refused to have a job. Just because I kept getting a cold. I really did. Every time I tried, I'd get a cold. Day 2. So I'm like, so that's where I am. You really do have to push that. Let me tell you that.
Well, I think we're all extremely envious of all three of you. To be able to love what you do and do it every day. And clearly, you couldn't do what you're doing unless it was a passion. Lots of us have probably at some point in our life thought of stopping what we're doing and pursuing a passion that is off the beaten path. Could you extrapolate a little bit on how you knew that you could make a living at something that you love like this, that was outside of the norm, not the conventional cubicle? That is, there's probably many of us, including myself, that look at that very enviously, to be able to do what you do every day.
No, I don't know if I'm on the same page as you guys. I don't know if I enjoy what I do every day. There are lots of parts I can't stand.
I don't enjoy it.
I like.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not good at the business end of show business, if you will. Marketing, contracts, and emails, and all that campaigns and stuff like that. But I do that because I have a passion for when I am in front of an audience or when I am with a group, entertaining or uplifting. So I guess I would add that. There are plenty of parts that are, like I travel a lot, and it's often solo. I used to work with partners. When my partners moved from here, from close by to Denver and Toronto and the West, when they all got as far away from me as possible, I went solo, and it's kind of lonely. I mentioned one thing I miss about teaching is that ongoing connection with people. If you work with an office or work with a group of employees, I'm like in and out of people's lives in an hour, so that's kind of hard too. But I did have a passion for, not for juggling or even humor per se. Those are kind of hooks. I had a passion for uplifting people, for engaging people, and so how did I know I could make it into a business? When I made money, I guess. I guess when I was planning to teach. I got my master's in education, as I said, and a degree in mathematics, and I was planning to teach. I got serious about life. I set aside, all that stuff that I'd learned as a kid, and learning with the University of Buffalo Department of Theater and Dance. Yes, dance too, contemporary dance, tights, the whole thing. Body of tight sometimes. But anyway, I set all that aside, even after touring with the circus. I never thought it would be my full-time profession. I was planning to teach, and then one thing led to another, and I realized I really had a passion for merging these two backgrounds. And then, when I started making more than I did, than I could as a teacher, I just thought, okay, there's a possibility here.
What was the question?
So how did you know you could make this into a business?
I knew that it was a successful business. As I explained earlier to the Lumsden crew, when I spent way too much of the, I'm not going to say hard-earned income, but of the income on lawyers and accountants for 1 year. I knew at that point it was viable. I knew at that point that I was no longer the guy renting out the kayaks and leading the tours down the river. I was the guy running a business. And I was lucky if that morning I could get out to the coffee shop and sit and work quietly with no distractions for 2 hours before I re-entered the hustle and bustle of the world of watercraft rental and liquor making. So you have something when it goes from you're just sitting around bored thinking, oh, this is great, I wish I could do this every day. It happens, you do it every day, and if you do it well enough every day, then you get the shaft, and then you have to start spending a fair amount of all of those days doing work that allows you to run a business that's can year round, really, which is great. my wife owns a business too. She has her own company as well, and she always says, well, it's great. If you have your own business, you can work half days. You just have to pick which 12 hours to work. So that's when you know that that's what keeps you alive and running too. Like if I wake up and I don't have a running list, or if I wake up at 3 in the morning, I don't have a running list of things that I've either forgotten or need to remember, just subsequently forget the next day, then something's wrong. So that's the stuff that keeps you ticking, and that's the stuff that keeps you in business, really, because it is. I mean, it's seemingly, if anybody's been to the canal side, all the kayaks in the water and the paddle boards and the fun that's happening, super frivolous, like you guys do. It's like people rent for an hour, so it's 1 hour of somebody's life that's now created, a lot of work for me to do on a regular basis. And I'm grateful to do it because again, I can do it from the beach house in Canada. I can do it from the Dominican Republic. I can do it from canal side if I ever go down to my actual place of employment and work. I can do it from a coffee shop. So that's the luxury of doing it, and it's not. Sometimes I wish I could do the 9 to 5, but I'm thankful it's not capable. Just the 9 to 5.
I agree that it's not always awesome every day. But I agree, like, and sometimes you feel like maybe I should just do the 9 to 5. Shit's really hard. But I grew up, I was very lucky to be born to really talented people. So my mom and dad were both artists and musicians. So I think I was telling a few people earlier when I first met you that I really didn't know people didn't do just that until I was about 6 years old, because I just saw my dad draw caricatures every night and play guitar in all the nightclubs and all around Buffalo. And so I would go with my father on the weekends and I would sing backup with him when I was 3, 4, or 5. They were Jacksons. They had me out there. Like, I was bringing cash, like, really hard. And my mom worked for home, so she drew cartoons and portrait art, and so they had, like, a little entertainment company when I was little. And I was there. They're very big hippies. I'm really just something they created. They wanted to see what would happen, and it was really like that. But my father always had a job. So he always worked in the plants, especially. So we were from Riverside, so my dad would work. I mean, it seemed like he was just constantly working. He would have probably 3 jobs sometimes just to make everything happen. So I saw how hard he worked doing that, and mainly the thing that took most of his energy was the job that he hated, that he didn't really make that much money at. So I'm like, well, I'm going to eliminate that, like, right away. But I ended up leaving home very young, and I worked in the restaurant industry since I was 13. So I was always bussing tables or waiting tables and bartending, and I worked in that industry for a long time, and the blessing I got from that was that I was really good at randomly walking up to people and just talking to them, because I have to, And so I kind of used that as a way to start to do caricatures. So I started pushing it to restaurants first, and I was really blessed to meet a great guy when I was 19, and he's my partner in my music, and he had a full-time drum lesson studio. So I'm like, wow, this guy doesn't have a boss. I'm like, this is really nice. I don't like my boss. I'm like, they keep firing me when I go on tour. Like, they don't like when I go away for a week. So I just started pushing that to restaurants, and now I do 5 or 6 nights a week at different places, different establishments. So I've had long-lasting relationships with Sky Zone and Paula's Donuts and Moe's is where I met Craig. I draw his daughter every single Tuesday. This poor girl has like 900 caricatures on her wall. But I guess I knew it would be a business when I got paid. I was like, somebody said yes. I was like, wow, you're going to let me come in and draw. And I still have people say that to me when I draw them. They're like, they let you come in here and do this? I'm like, is this all you do? Like, and I just been like, yeah, it's sad. I know. And I have a big tip jar out, and they throw me a 20, because they're like, oh, this is all you do? You just draw all the time. I'm like, I know. So, but all those years of waiting tables, I was able to kind of take a beating and, be able to, because I don't have to worry about your steak, so it's way better. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And like you said, if I don't wake up every day with a million things to do, I mean, I like that you pick the 12 hours, because between that and our music, I mean, I really did this so that I could keep pursuing my music, because I just didn't want anyone to own what we did. And my partner is the same way. So we took it on ourselves, and nobody owns what we do. So if there's the little money that does trickle down to the music industry, it actually trickles into my pocket rather than somebody else that was going to do all that work anyway. So the marketing thing, that was all that stuff I had to learn. And, I had to get really regimented in my life and really just very strict, which is probably harder than the 9-to-5 job, as now I'm realizing as I'm getting into it. But it's gone well, and I just kind of keep going every day, and I think that's what everybody does. But I'm not good at anything else but drawing and singing, so that's what I do. I don't even know if I answered the question, but don't give me the mic.
So I'm kind of curious, was this like in your family?
No, my family had a pretty decent work ethic. My father worked very hard. He just retired a couple of years ago at 70-something. He was a fixture at Buffalo. He was in the HR community of Buffalo for a million years. And he and I are very much alike, but as a safe guy, he had an office job forever, until he was 71. If he's this risk averse, I am, the polar opposite. So I went completely the opposite direction. And he's still, I think he worries more about what I'm doing more than I do, which is good.
Actually, my mom was I guess I can buy it honestly, if you will, too. I'm always fascinated by stories like that. My mom was a mime and a fire eater, among other things.
You just made mine look normal.
That's
never happened to me before.
And my singer, dancer, and story, right? And storyteller. She's like this, interesting lady. So I'm just curious, a survey, how many people out there, like, you're in an industry or doing a job that's similar to like one of your parents or somebody that's close to you, an industry that's where you started. So only a couple, huh? And most of you just started it from scratch or just came up with an idea. That impresses me.
Me too.
You have something in common. My father was a carny.
Oh, yeah?
No.
You got a sense of humor, I bet.
No, they looked at the IRS, actually.
But it did have a sense of humor. A little bit.
Everybody just got scared.
Yeah. Christina, you mentioned, you talked about marketing, and when you get into, we'll call it non-traditional jobs, nothing that you're going to school for, you all are doing now traditional things that are sometimes taken away from the creative side. You're providing what I would call a not necessarily a need, but something, a desire for people. Once they see it, they want it. They want to go on kayaks, they want to go listen to music, they want caricature, they want to see you juggle, they want you to come to schools. That once they see it, making that leap, getting people to want to be on a kayak in the river in a city that is not known at that point, was just beginning the renaissance in the waterfront. How do you get people to where you're at, to want them to drink your spirits, get them on a kayak, want to see you juggle, listen to your music? That's very interesting, because I think the three of you are very creative in what you're doing, and I could already hear the struggle that you guys have had. That's kind of what maybe might be the vein of what's going on. So, but how do you get people to come, give them what you want them to do?
I don't know. I want to pass it on to you.
I'm going to drink my spirits.
And pass it on, because
Honestly, marketing has
it's been a real weakness. There it goes again. Real weakness of mine. I've been very fortunate to do what I do for 21 years full time, and even before that, I think longevity, like you were saying, longevity is a big part of it for me. I just kept at it. I just, kind of word of mouth. I do most of what I do by word of mouth and referrals. I guess that's my short answer.
Buffalo is a small town, as everybody knows. Any given weekend in the summer, there are 15 things going on. If the weather's nice, you try to do half of the 15 things. Or you just, you have to, because you have 120 days of summer. It's short. You have to get out and do things. So, the way I saw it, I had just moved back to Buffalo a couple of years before Canal Side finally opened in 2009. I was biking around the area, before it even had the name Canal Side, it was just the outer harbor, the central wharf. No one knew what they call it. Back when Jordy Levy and Tom B were kind of figuring out the whole fiasco down there. And I was biking with some friends, and I was naive. I said, "Oh, that's cool. How do you get out onto the water?" And they looked at me like, "You're on a bike. Why would you want to get in the water? You know, the water is Buffalo River. No one wants to get in the water." I said, "Well, not in the water, but how do I do something here? We're sitting on the water. What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know." It's like, maybe if you have a friend with a boat. I'm like, no, these are all stupid answers. So the way I figured it out was, if I wanted to do it, there's probably, hopefully 100,000 other people that want to do it. and so it goes. Here we are. We just completed our 9th year, and the first year, it was me on weekends trying to rent out half a dozen kayaks. And people would come down, and it became oh, this is a great idea, or oh, I've read about this, in part of the Canal Side press. And I did get lucky. When Canal Side opened, they were hyping the Jesus out of it. I didn't have to spend $1 for marketing the first couple of years because they were talking about it. The news was always down there. All the news channels were down there. So I was on TV a lot in those first 2 years, pretending I knew what the hell was going on. And like everybody else, because no one knew. It was myself and another friend's company, the Spirit of Buffalo, the Hellmans, that brought the big sailboat down. We were down there sitting there looking at each other most of the time because no one even knew how to get to Canal Side. And then here we are, fast forward 9 years later, 1 million people went through this past summer. It was a crappy summer, it rained and it was cold. So it was largely word of mouth. I went from working just weekends just myself to having a couple kids and a couple tour guides and all sorts of tax headaches. And we're down there 9 to 7 every day for 120 straight days, barring wind and storm. So it's great. But it was once the honeymoon's over and everybody stops filming you every other day for a puff piece in the news, then you have to really ramp up. You have to keep your name out there. So Facebook, social media was hopping right at the same time. And then this was 9 years ago, so Facebook was relatively fresh. So you start figuring that out, you do posts, and you just really try to figure out the cheapest way possible to market because you have not a lot of money. And then we're fortunate now where it's a fixture. If someone sees a kayak in the river, there's a couple competitors now. There's a handful of people who rent kayaks and paddleboards and whatnot down the river and off the lake. But to this day, everybody's like, oh, they just assume they're mine because I was there first, which is great. And in year 1, I knew by the end of July, I remember this, I was sitting in Left Bank at the bar with a friend, and out of the corner of my ear, I heard someone talking about, I was like, oh, you can rent kayaks down at the waterfront now. And I was just like, huh? So I just listened, and it was great. It was like a total affirmation. And it's like, huh, maybe I'm onto something. And that took, that helped me come back the following year when I was asked, hey, you want to come back? Instead of saying, oh, it was an experiment, I don't think it worked. It was great. Well, I did let somebody else do it. I said, yeah, hell yeah, I'm coming back. And then I'm glad I did, because now, 1 million people came through this past summer, not, a couple dozen thousand the first year. So it's grown exponentially, and first mover. I was the first one on the site, so that is every day I thank my lucky stars I bit the bullet first and was crazy enough to say, maybe I'll try to put this together. So, opportunity.
I was wondering how this started down there.
People just ask if they can do things. They say yes.
I have 2 different kinds of sides to my life, but it's all one thing to me. But the music industry is really a different thing. But I just decided to not look at it like that. So I guess the best way to say it is how do we make them want something that we do is a question, right? I kind of believe that people don't know what they want until they get it. And it's kind of like that. We have a very big lake and river. It's been here for a really, really long time. Nobody ever thought of putting a kayak in it. And now people really want it. Right? Yeah, I grew up in Riverside. We don't want to go in the water. Now people really it's part of their life in the summer. They go kayaking, and it's kind of the same thing I think with caricatures. I go very fast when I draw. I only take 2-3 minutes per picture. I put my website at the bottom of every picture. So it started that simple for me as far as marketing went. And I think I started putting my phone number at the beginning. I didn't think I had a website. But, I just kept learning and learning of of how to kind of fill something that people didn't even know they needed. Like sometimes they have a kid's birthday party, but they really don't know what to do with the kids. There's 9-year-olds. That's challenging. So they hire me, and I kind of wrangle them in for an hour, and I draw their pictures, and I answer all their 7 million questions, and I help them just think positive about being an artist. I mean, Buffalo is a great place because it is small, and people, if they like what you do, they tell their friends, they tell their family, and it's great because that's really why I think anything I've done is spread. But it's at the same time, strangely, a hindrance I found when it comes to the creative arts, at least that I found. And it's been the only uphill battle we've really had was convincing people that something great could be here, which I found to be odd. But, if they'll say, well, if you're a musician, why do you live here? I'm like, well, because I was born here and I stayed. But, I travel a lot, but I'm here, and so we decided to start to bring, instead of just playing a concert in Buffalo, because we travel a lot, we wanted to do something where we would take other artists that were up and coming and trying to make it, and the more we kept taking meetings and meeting with Sony and meeting with, Atlantic Records and getting really big meetings and getting into the belly of this business where it's like really bad. It's like a really bad business because they prey on people that can't get past creativity. They're like, well, I just wrote this song and it's good and I know it's good. And I think it's good, is it good? Help. And then they walk in, and I was like that. I was 16 and I started really getting in there and realizing that that's why they don't make any money. That's why you hear these horror stories in the music business, and I just decided to always try to be from an angle of F you, I guess, of like, we don't really need you, but if you can make it better and we can all make money and we can all get our music out there together, we can do this. And it seems it's been a longer road, but we've been able to bring in Red Bull and bring in Heineken and make an emerging artist showcase where we bring other acts that are doing something really good, but no one knows about it. So we're still trying to fill the venue, which is the issue, but it's something that people do want. Like the people that come, they're like, wow, I never knew that you guys were doing this, and I didn't know that there's a girl named Maya by name that is opening up for major acts. There's guys on massive tours right now that are from Buffalo that no one knows that they exist. So they just, because they don't really expect it to be here. So now that we're shining light on that stuff, and we teamed with the Wounded Warrior Project, and they used our song for a music video tribute, but we did the music video, and we had to do all the press. But now they're starting to kind of go, well, they're from Buffalo. And it's weird, like the newscasters, everybody at first wouldn't support it because, well, you're local. I'm like, wait, isn't that good that we're like local, but we're doing something national? Like I thought that would maybe be a good thing. And they're slowly turning around and kind of backing it up now. But it took a really long time. And it was kind of the same with the caricatures. It took me a long time to just get people to go, oh, this is something that, like, she's really actually kind of good at this. And a lot of times, I don't know if you get this, but you may, but they almost think that it's kind of like you're going to be this weirdo that comes over the house. Like, what do? You just come in the house and start drawing people? I'm like, first of all, it's weird for me. It's weird only for me. I'm coming in your house. I don't know who you are. I've met you maybe once at most, and now I'm walking in your home, and I hope you don't kill me. Like everybody drawing kids. But, so I really don't want to take a chance, but all over the years, I've been doing this full-time for about 10 years, and I started when I was about 17. And they, over the years, it's become now, they're like, wow, you're actually like a business person. You have a business card? Like, it's incredible how people react to sometimes. And now I'm finding that because of this resurgence in Buffalo and everybody, the mentality is changing. That small businesses and entrepreneurs are you're not looked at kind of like, well, how do you just work, guys? Like, what are you doing? I don't really have to have the conversation as much anymore. And it's very nice. And I stay in Nashville quite a bit, and the attitude is just so different there. But I'm starting to see a lot more of that, and I think people are kind of realizing, and I think because of the way I grew up, my family all worked in the plants when I was young, and they all lost their jobs. So there really wasn't a sense of security with a 9-to-5 for me anyway. So I think I'm finally kind of seeing that come around, and for some reason, they just show up. I can't really explain it, but it's kind of like the kayak. It's like if you build it, they will come. It's kind of, I believe in that. So it's working so far. Again, I hope I answered the question.
That's great. Sorry, one thing to add to that. The Buffalo, you're right. the city would love to hate itself. Everybody knows the city still looks down at itself. Yeah, things are changing for the better, and in the entrepreneurial community, it's assumed that if you have an LLC and you file taxes, in the positive and didn't take a loss for the previous 10 years, it's assumed that, okay, well, fine, what have you done outside of Buffalo? It's assumed that if you're an entrepreneur and you're in Buffalo, sure, anybody can do that. You can make a living. It's a low-cost living. What's next? What are you doing next? It's, do something hard. Like launch a business and do something outside of Buffalo. So that's become kind of the new jab in the ribs among the community, in my opinion.
Is it something you're going to do?
Yeah, right. Is this it? Are you just going to run kayaks? I was like, well, no. In order to do the next list of things, you have to start somewhere. And the venture capital community isn't huge in Buffalo. The tech side of things is great. That's growing. That's a fun community to be ancillarily involved with some of that stuff. So that's fun to see go and grow. But it's the Hollywood mentality. It's like, what have you done lately? It's like, great, you have a kayak check, super, 10 years old. What are you doing now? And to what you said, I actually
feel so much better.
No, I worked for Sony when I was in California, not the music side, but I was there during the height of the Napster wars. And being at Sony when Napster was a crescendo, it was just vile to be part to know that it's like, well, I'm working on the Sony side of things, but knowing that whole community is there, it was a weird war.
Crazy stories about a lot of people. And I'm like, this is not enticing.
I think I have a better answer now too. After listening to these guys.
We're talking about your news now?
No, just thinking about, like, you're both talking about the music, kayaks, people wanting to get out and do things. I mean, people want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
My vision is a world where people everywhere enjoy life and do good. So there's another part to it that I think is important. But enjoying life, people want it. And memories, you're creating memories, the characters and so on. So enjoying life, creating memories. So it's all about the benefits. So I think if I were to start marketing, I'm just going to ask this group, who could use less stress in their life? Okay, that's a good sign. Could anyone use more laughter? Okay, more laughter, less stress. That's my new marketing campaign right there.
It's actually a really good one.
More laughter, less stress. I'm going to take that.
I like it. Yeah. This question is really for Christina and Nels. You deal with you both deal with children, and when you're dealing with children and you're trying to put smiles on people's faces in small stints like you talked about, you have to be on all the time. You can't show up angry. You can't be carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders when you're there to educate, put a smile on somebody's face. So in life in general, that's difficult. In your field, I would imagine it's even more difficult because there is no place to hide. You have a time to start and a time to end, and that hour to 2 hours or 3 hours, you have to be on all the time. How do you stay on all the time? Is that a trick? Is it a gift? Is it something that you just learned over the years?
I get that. Okay. Looks like it's driving me insane. Sorry.
Singer and you, right?
I know, I'm just making it insane. I think for me, I really love kids. I've always loved kids. I didn't expect to work with kids. It was not something that I'm like, I'm going to start working with some kids. Like, I really just, and I work with a lot of people. I'm pretty lucky that I usually see people at an event, like a wedding, or like I come to stuff like this, and I sit and draw everybody, and I tell my weird little jokes, and it's really hard to be in a bad mood when you're in front of a stranger. At least for me, I have a hard time. Like, I'm just not gonna, I had a weird day today. It was a hard day. But I like to entertain, so as soon as I'm in front of people, I feel more comfortable than when I'm home. Or, arguing with somebody. But with kids, I think kids are the best people in the world to have a conversation with. They're like the most interesting. Like Craig's daughter is one of my favorite people. Like, I love this kid. Like, she's just hysterical. She comes up with the weirdest little stories. And that's the only time in my day that I get to have the kind of conversations I really want to have. Like, I really do want to talk about third grade. Like, that's fun. Like, I don't want to talk about taxes. You know, I don't want to talk about the fact that, you know, you have to write songs in a certain perspective now because the millennials don't understand a different perspective. I actually heard that from a producer. They're like, no. They want me to be, but I'm like, I can't do that magic, unfortunately. It just kind of keeps going in one direction. But, you know, the kids are just awesome. So my partner feels the same way. Like, he's a drum teacher, and he just loves being around kids. They just make you happy. To me. Some people can't see kids. But I've been very lucky that I really do just enjoy entertaining kids. They're just very fun. And the adults aren't too bad either. I do a lot of happy hours. It's kind of the same mentality, so it kind of works out.
Enjoy your life.
Exactly.
Alright. So, I don't know if I can answer that because the mic's not working. I don't know if I can answer that because I hate kids. That's why I stopped at 5. I do have 5 kids. I love kids. I'd say, you know, actually, I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question because even when I'm doing my school programs for students, you know, kindergarten through secondary, elementary and secondary students, I really believe it's as much for the teachers as for the kids, and I keep that in mind when I design my programs. And more of what I'm doing is for adults. And actually, the thing that came to mind, I think I shared the story about being involved with Roswell Park Humor Project. And then I shared a little bit about that at the event. A group of volunteers whose sole purpose was to find ways to bring joy to the visitors of Roswell. And these people were awesome. They were fun-loving people, and they just wanted to bring joy to people. And, you know, mostly adults, well, a lot of kids there too. But like I shared the story of Sue Spindler, a retired teacher and big old therapist there, and an awesome story about a gentleman who came in, you know, slumped over in a wheelchair, and he wouldn't cooperate with the doctors, and she joked with him and his sister, and they ended up cooperating with the doctor and had a great lunch together, and he, you know, waved off the wheelchair on his way out. And said to her, "You're a dangerous lady. I hope to see you when I come again." And it was a really positive ending. So that was her story, but the story that came to my mind, you get these glimpses, whatever you do, whatever your industry, you might get just glimpses of why you're really doing what you're doing. You know? Like when I was teaching, teachers, how often do you hear, you know, have students come back to teachers and, you know, tell them what a difference they made in their lives? Oftentimes they just don't hear that. They don't know. They don't even know. And you might only get glimpses, and you got to latch onto those. You know, Aristotle said, "Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work." Pleasure in the job, not just knowledge, not just skills. It's what's your pleasure, what's your joy, what really makes you tick, what makes you go, "Yeah, that's why I do this." You know, and for me, like recently, it wasn't kids. It was a group of Volvo and Mack truck is aftermarket commercial training, something or other. You know, big burly guys and Carhartts and flannels and stuff. And I had them all balancing peacock feathers and juggling scarves, and I was sharing about building that mirth, about joy and work and life. And we had a blast. And after that event, and that led to one in San Diego, so this was in Toronto, and those, both of those events, after each one, I had people come up to me and just start having really deep conversations with me. The one guy in San Diego just caught me off guard. He all of a sudden, he started, like, you could tell he was fighting back tears. And he said, "I just got to tell you how much I needed this. I lost my son, 17 years old, in a car accident. And this is the first time I've laughed since then." And it was like, yeah, that's why I do what I do. So I don't know what else to say, but cling to those moments, write them down, share them with people, you know, take pictures, remind yourself of those things, because you'll need them at some point.
No, this always reminds me of how business-oriented I actually am when I hear people like you, because I'm like, I have these moments all the time, and it's something I don't recognize that they happen. But it really is just bringing joy to people a lot. Like, they just get to experience something that they don't get to do every day. It kind of breaks them out of their everyday trouble. I mean, as much as I don't think about anything, they're not thinking about anything either. So they're just enjoying their time. And even with music, we're very loud. We want like the bass drum to make you a little nauseous at our concerts because you're not really thinking about anything else except, my God, this is loud. And then you start to kind of, everyone is, their senses are kind of thrown. And the music just, we wrote a song called Miss You that I lost my mom when I was 10, and my partner Scott lost his dad when he was 14, so we wrote a song about losing our parents. It just kind of happened. It was the easiest song I've ever written. It took like 5 minutes. And I made the vocal really quick. We didn't really think about it. We put it out independently in 2011. And over the years of us playing it out, it was always kind of a fan favorite. It became like our Purple Rain. We're like, in my mind, I'm like, this is Purple Rain. Like, we're going to extend the ending and get everybody's hands out, and it's going to be great. And people seem to really connect to the song. And we always would get these random little emails of, you know, I lost my husband and I listened to that song, and it really was like the first time I could listen to music, and like real deep, like crazy emails. And we were going to put out another single this year, and, you know, we're always writing new stuff and just, you know, progressing, and something told us that we should take a look at that song again, because nobody really heard it, you know, we had no money behind it, we just put it out. And this lady that my partner, he teaches her drum, she had a son that was a veteran, and he unfortunately committed suicide. He had PTSD and all these issues after coming back from Afghanistan, and he took his own life, and she used our song at his funeral. So I was like, I never thought I was going to write a song that people were using at a funeral. It was not a goal in my life. I'm like, but when you have something like that you made that connects with people, you have to go with that, you know? So we collaborated with another producer out in California, kind of updated it and made it the best we could, and we put it out again, and we ended up teaming with the Reward Project, and they used it for a tribute to their military families. And so, like, just, I guess I don't know why I told that story, but that kind of connection was something that I made. And that opened up doors for us to tour military training centers and do all this different stuff because these people really connected to the song. So it did bring something that I guess they didn't know they needed. And someone actually wrote me that on Facebook. It's hard to place how that all feels, but you did it. Well, that's pretty cool. Considering I can't do long division, that was a good accomplishment.
I can help you with that.
Those are both very touching stories, emotional. Jason, I'd like to, if you could answer the question. One thing you didn't touch on, we talked about kayaking, but could you talk a little bit about how you made the jump from kayaking in the river to starting a distillery?
The kayak thing started in 2009. The distillery formally launched, and I believe we opened the doors to the public in 2015. It wasn't so much a jump as it was a concurrent project. Like I said, the Kayak Shack, it's during the summer months, there's 120 straight days where I'm just deeply immersed in the business that is. And however many other days of the year, 245 other days of the year, I sit back, and if I'm not thinking about the Kayak Shack, I'm pacing and thinking about what else. And the thing about the Kayak Shack and the distillery, that are very simple. They're both, to me, I saw this gaping hole down the river and said, oh, why isn't there a this? And I figured if I didn't do it, somebody else would. And then with the distillery, it was very similar. A friend and I were at a holiday party, and we were chatting about a couple things. The laws had changed in New York, blah, 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 allowing distilleries to open up. Unlike, for the first time since Prohibition, anybody could really open a distillery if you weren't huge. And the caveat was you had to use ingredients and things grown in the state. And to that I said, that's great. But what the heck? I like rum. There's no sugar cane in the state. How do I make rum? And then about 15 seconds later, I look at a good friend of mine who's actually my partner in the distillery, who said, well, wait a minute, maple syrup has the consistency of molasses. And then about 10 to 15 felonies later, we figured out that it would actually work as a business once we got it to ferment and distilled it. And then it was the same thing. It was like, crap, now we have to do this before somebody else does. So we have these ideas. There's an opportunity that it's like a micro opportunity that we just blow into something that everybody should be aware of. And then the goal is to get people to think, why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea. I should come down and paddle, or I should drink this because I've never had it, and why wouldn't I? So the thing I like, and the way I guess my mind works, I'm always on to the next thing. It's like I'm running these two things. I have good teams that run each of those things. But for me personally, I pace like a caged elephant. You know, I'm crazed. It's like I'm not looking towards something to do something. I go nuts. So I have to be, you know, eyes open all the time. And the Kayak Shack is great. It's very fulfilling. The Distillery is great. It has a whole separate set of headaches. You know, I don't deal with kids. You have to be 21 and up or 50 pounds and up to either of my two things. I've never really got touching emails. That's amazing. That stuff is crazy. You know, there's a lot of happy selfies on Instagram.
My family are some of those.
That's great. That's great. But I can't compete with the likes of, you know, helping people. So I'm all about recreation. I'm all about providing that experience, whether it's at a bar, on the river, you know, with friends, family, getting out of your comfort zone, especially with the Kayak Shack. It was great because people were thinking, we rented canoes for the first year. And that the way people thought about it is like, oh, I've canoed before in camp when I was, you know, back in 1951. You know, so everybody had this idea that canoeing was safer and easier than kayaking. And then, you know, my insurance company luckily was left out of a lot of this, but there are more incidents with canoes than kayaks. Kayaks are safer by a factor of 1,000 to 1. So by year 2, we got rid of the canoe. So we had to get people to understand that a kayak, this big red plastic thing, is safer and ultimately will be more comfortable and fun than this canoe that you did at Camp Winnipesaukee back when you were 5. You know, so it's I don't know what the question was, but so it's always the next thing. Like there was an opportunity. I threw it against the wall. It stuck. Talk to enough people, and they say, yeah, why don't you? And then you just start doing the business plan. I don't do a business plan. Early on, I was told, and it's very true in my opinion, if you do a business plan, you just waste all your energy doing a business plan, because by the time you actually are into the business, you will have thrown it all away because it's pointless. So it's changed 100% from the time you write it down and dot the I and print to ultimately fast forward 18 months down the road. Everything's changed. Everything you're doing doesn't look like anything you've set out to do, generally, in my opinion, with things we've been involved in. So I guess the answer is eyes open, always looking for the next something interesting. You know, I'm not happy staying in one place. It drives me crazy. You know, I wish I could be the person who could sit still and do the 9 to 5 at Geico. You know, sometimes.
My cousin works there.
Yeah, no offense to Geico. It's just, but no, I use that example too. It's like sometimes I wish I could be that person, but I don't know. It's like a shark thing, right? You have to keep swimming or else you die. So.
Well, let me ask you this. It's about time for your next venture probably coming up. Can you give us a hint?
I imagine it's not going to be rum and kayaks together.
Yeah, we're going to do if the floating bar was done last year, the tiki thing, they did well with that. So, under the subject of what's next, this one there's actually 3. I'm writing a kid's book. I did the photography for that, and a good friend of mine who's an artist is going to be doing the character drawing, and that's all framed up. I just have to literally put it together and do that whole rigmarole. I worked in Hollywood for a number of years, so I'm very fearful of getting back into dealing with agents and things. But so I'll be entering that world probably by late fall, winter. I have another app business, which I'm not app, it's an online philanthropical thing. They will all be spooling up slowly. I'm assuming February and March will be cold and long, so I'll probably do that. In between wrangling my 3-year-old and my 6-month-old. We'll be 3.5 in 8 months by then. But the thing that's coming up quickly, I have a meeting with an IP attorney tomorrow morning, and then a product management team on Friday morning to spool up something that I actually can't talk about. But it involves tech and yeah, it involves there's a big technology component, a big old school manufacturing component, and it's kind of environmentally focused. So that's next. Ish.
There's 3.
That's it. This question again is going to go back to Christina and Nels. In your line of work, I would imagine it may be difficult. You talk about this a little bit. You really more have gigs than a full-time job, and it is, or maybe that it might not even be the right characterizations, but they're jobs that you have in small bits. And so, is cash flow a problem? Managing time, scheduling? You know, for most of us, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It is 60, 70, 80 hours, but there is an off switch, and we have some certainty of where we're going to be the next day or the next week. And with the two of you, you're traveling, Nashville, you know where school's going to be, and how do you keep your schedule full, and how do you keep those schedules on track?
Okay, so a couple of components, the scheduling and the budgeting. Okay, so budgeting, I'm getting the wrong person to talk to you about this. This was my budgeting. I've learned a lot since, but I used to have, color-coded calendars, and my gigs were in red. I guess they should have been in black because you want to be in the black, right? But my gigs were in red so that they'd stand out, and my budgeting was to look at the calendar and go, yeah, we can go out to the movies, That's about all we could afford for fun at the time. And so I've gotten better. I love, the whole $0 budgeting, like assigning every dollar, and paying myself first and all that stuff. So that I started to learn those things, and I love YNAB for budgeting and keeping track of things. YNAB, you need a budget. I don't know, it's what I use when I came across it. I don't know if that's really helpful as far as that goes. But yeah, just learning that, wow, there's going to be slow seasons, and they're not always at the same time, and I got to be saving money for those times. For scheduling, how do I keep schedule? Even like practical things, like I like Google products, Google calendars. Everything's available wherever you go. So I just use all that. My brother has run a successful business for a long time. Just Google docs and sheets and stuff that he shares, and very simple business. After he had some, he had a bigger software thing going on that was just more complex, and actually fell apart with the tech bubble burst and all that. So he convinced me to keep it simple. Does that kind of answer the question, I guess?
Well, again, Jason's making me feel so much better about my own personality right now. I'm really, it's a blessing. No, I guess scheduling and stuff. I'm very scheduled, ironically. I'm very anti-normal musician, but the Google Calendar is like my phone. It's on my hip all the time. But basically, cash flow and stuff. If I didn't have initially a restaurant events every week. That was my goal, to have 5 nights a week where I knew I had a base pay from each establishment, and then of course I get tips and all that stuff, but I would know, okay, that's my base at least for these. And then plus I get parties and events and just different stuff kind of keeps popping up. But over the years I just created multiple streams of income. I did poster prints. I made a Noah's Ark poster print. I did a Buffalo My Home poster print, so it's a cartoon buffalo sitting on the waterfront. I did put the kayak in. But I know I should have done the kayak, but you know, and then I have like a how to draw coloring book for kids. So I have other things that I sell at my events, and plus people order those online. And then I do have the online store too. And then you know, music is basically just you put into that 24 hours a day for most of your money. But you know, now we just develop different types of media. Like we team with Women Warrior Project and did that, so that brings in you know different types of income and the different sponsors for you know all of our concerts that we do. So really, I just try to budget myself out for when the winter hits. You know, my art gigs kind of slow up, and so I try to spend more time in Nashville around then, where it's not snowing. And but you know, I think it's funny. I'm just a real big believer in just faith. You know, I guess believing in faith is something, but it's incredible if you just do what you love or what you believe in. I think you know the money kind of appears. I always heard that growing up, and thank God it actually sunk in. There's times I have pure panic. There's not a lot of security, but you know, we're developing a documentary right now and on the DIY music world and all the different artists that we've met over the country, and you know, so I'm always coming up with something new that can bring in new income and keep me interested and you know, waking up every day wanting to do it. So, but yeah, Google Calendar I print it out and send it to my accountant and hope that everything works out. So that's how I organize it, I guess.
I have something to add to that. On the subject of budgeting and cash flow, the distillery is great. That's has its own issues, cash flow side. For the accountants, it's the most boring K1 ever. The partners, the two of us, we fold everything back into the business, so we don't see any money from that. In fact, if I sold it tomorrow, it would be a windfall of my own money coming back in the form of notes. So that's at the Kayak Shack. I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and I don't take their bitching and their moaning about I only have a paycheck for 9 months of the year, and then I have to budget all summer long. I say to them, okay, those 9 months, the 3 months that you have to figure out how to live off the money you've made for the last 9 months, I make my money in those 3 months that I have to now spread out over a long, boring winter. So I like those 120 days is you know, after all the expenses and people are paid, and again the accountants and the tax attorneys, blah blah blah, and the employees and all of the fees. You know, at the end of that day, it's a cash cow. It's a great business, but nonetheless, I have 120 days to collect from it that I now have to figure out. You know, March 3rd when the car breaks, the roof leaks, anything happens. You know, it's gotta, and not to mention there's things like savings accounts for kids and 401ks and things like that I'm supposed to be putting money into. It's a tough one to budget 245 days without a paycheck.
We've been talking about your successes. Would each one of you maybe talk about a failure? And it's a little cliche, but a failure and what you learned from it, unless they've all been successes.
I can share lots of stories. I don't know, and things I've learned from. I don't know, that's what comes to mind. Okay, so you know, I juggle, and that's one of the things I do. So I had a partner at the time, and we were invited to an event at Robert Lane College down the road in Rochester, and we were juggling torches, lit torches. Well, because lit torches are more impressive than me. Yeah, otherwise it's sticks. So juggling lit torches, me on a tall unicycle, rocking this way, and him on a balance board, rocking the other way, and me throwing up and down to each other on this really narrow apron of a stage, right in front of the main curtain. And so this old, dry, curtain right behind us, a narrow stage of people, like it was packed, and there were kids on the floor right in front. And we were like, we were a little bit naive. So this is a while ago. So anyway, we pulled off just fine. Juggled the torches, we did great. We thought, wow. And then I came down, and because the apron was so narrow, when you start coming down off of a tall unicycle, you can't change your direction. Okay, mind you. And I was going at just a little bit of an angle. I didn't quite go straight. I went a little bit of an angle, and I went off the front of the stage. The unicycle flipped up. I rolled over somebody in the front row holding torches, some kid. And it didn't hurt him or anything, but everybody's like, ah! And then I popped up and went, ta-da! And it was like, oh, okay, nervous applause, and everybody was fine. But then the smoke alarms went off because we had forgotten to ask them to turn off the smoke alarms. We had to evacuate Roberts Wesleyan College, and oh gosh, it was so bad. And then our penance was, there was supposed to be a rod puppet show. This is like a performing arts ministry convention, and there's supposed to be a rod puppet show. The tall puppets on rods. And we had, our penance was holding the curtain for a half an hour, like, and our arms were killing us, and people were laughing at us, and it made the puppet show even funnier. And then we got fined. And then we got fined for more than we made for the gig. And so people say, we're talking about having to always be on, like if you're in, what we do, or when you're in a public office or something, man, you're going to make mistakes. And the crazy thing is, we got invited back. That was a couple of years later. Yeah.
It was memorable.
It was memorable. Hey, we were unforgettable. So if you can be unforgettable. But no, I made plenty of mistakes, and every time I've been able to bounce back, sometimes literally. Keep on trucking.
We almost burned Shays down.
Shades.
So, no, it wasn't even us. So it looked like it was us because we were at the Distillery, not the Kayak Shack, that would be really hard. But we were at one of the events at Shays with dozens of other restaurants and breweries and microphones. And the booth next to, I won't mention the restaurant, they had a couple of their amateur chefs working off gas burners next to I think there were $60,000 curtains at the end of it, and one of the grease sparks flew to the curtain, hit the curtain immediately. It was like 400 people at Shays at the time, so the curtain just, luckily it's a tall ceiling, so it took 4 minutes for it to just burn the curtain to a point where it was just a big flaming curtain. And me, as a brand manager, decided, because for some reason, I don't know how it worked with your fire, but at the fire of Shays with the smoke, no one decided to leave. It was just a good time to go, oh my God, someone call somebody. So everybody's saying I'm looking at this curtain burning, reaching for their cell phones. And I'm like, they're not going to call the fire department, they're going to take pictures. So I was the hero, and I took all our branding down. So none of our distillery branding appeared in the foreground of the giant fire behind us at Shays that we didn't start. So I saved the brand. I didn't save Shays. No, it was they only lost the curtain. It was a near disaster. That it's astonishing how many people just stand around and literally look at Rome burn instead of trying to do something. Yeah, and take pictures of it. So my goal is to save the company by getting the branding the hell out of their Instagram. So, I had a huge failure. Myself and a couple other friends, we tried to put a rock climbing gym in a grain elevator 5 years ago. We had national press, we had all sorts of stuff, and nothing but, oh my God, it's a great idea. And then by the beginning of the 18th month, year two, the whole thing just imploded. It was just something that ground to a screeching halt, and it really it tore everybody up. We were all heartbroken, and then you realize that that's when you have to do the disconnect. If you try to be an entrepreneur, you have your heart and your soul and your passion perfectly aligned with everything you do in that period of time, and then if it's yanked away from you, you have to cope somehow, and the way you cope is go, well, that's business, and you realize you get to that point, and it's a hard line to cross, and you realize that you can't proceed any further. Like there's literally nothing more you can do short of an enormous bag of money falling in your lap to fix things, and that doesn't happen.
Maple Room.
And Maple Rum. No, that didn't. But so after this spectacular failure, it was, you know, the three partners, myself and two others, we still talk, you know, we're still friendly. You know, it was no one's fault. It was just, you know, it was overly ambitious and underfunded, and it ran away from us and the partners we had involved with it. From, you know, just not without doing any damage here. With, you know, just there's a lot of parties that had to be involved in that particular endeavor, and if everybody's not rowing in the same direction, you're going nowhere. And that was a hard one. You know, that was, it's, for a while, the first year was embarrassing. You know, I would get calls once in a while, oh, what's the status of, you know, the Facebook page had, literally in 4 months' time, it had like 10,000 likes. You know, we had international press. It was ridiculous how, for some reason, this little gem of an idea just caught fire. And then less than 2 years later, dead. You know, and it was a hard one to swallow, but you have to just distance yourself, and you have self-preservation. You know, you can't dwell on it. You have to be doing something else. So yeah, you gotta fail. You know, at the distillery, we had a partner early on, and he was bleary-eyed and deluded, and to this day, if you ask him, have you ever failed at anything in your life, his answer is no, because his pride can't handle it. He's never failed. You know, and so he decided to quietly exit and take the path of least resistance so he can go about a life where he never has to fail. And he was just, you know, that's not a life you could want to have if you want to be an entrepreneur, I agree. At this point, knowing what I have now, I will never have another partner or anybody that I'll do business with, you know, closely, if they can't list spectacular failures, because, you know, you're delusional if you think you can do something without failing at some point.
Okay, I completely agree. If you don't fail, I don't think you've really ever tried anything.
Right.
You know, I mean, you had to start with the fire at some point. You know, I'm sure that you don't go great the first time. You know, I've always wondered that. Like, how do people start, like, big fire? Like, how do you practice that? Like, that seems insane. No, I'm good. But I completely agree. Like, I was racking my brain. I've had so many little ones, big ones. Like, I mean, there was a stabbing at one of our concerts once when we first started playing. I mean, I was always playing out in Buffalo and all over the place. I mean, so many. What's that? No, it was on Allen. But there, I mean, oh my God, my heel broke. I fell in front of 400 people. I mean, there's been so many things that have just been disasters. We showcased for Sony, and my in-ear monitors just kind of went through the entire thing for 45 minutes. No one ever got to fix it. I just had to, like, thank God I knew the songs. But I think, you know, the biggest failure that we had that I learned the most from, so I felt like that was the most I ever really put something out there. We teamed with a producer that we'd always written and produced our own stuff, and we wanted to collaborate with this guy that we had been watching. If you guys know Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, he was doing an album at the time that he was doing it with the world. It was basically like an internet show where you send in, if you hear the song and you liked the song and you wanted to lay a guitar track, you would send it into the studio. So there would be him and this producer. And so the world was making this album. It was like this cool thing. So we were watching it for like 6 months, just watching how this guy was doing it. Because I've always thought he was a really great artist. And the whole time we're watching it, my parent was like, I want to work with that guy. There was a guy in the background just on a computer the entire time. So Tommy's like a hype man, you know, and the producer's the big producer guy, and then there's this other guy in the background doing everything. So we're like, we want to work with that guy. So we went to Los Angeles. Every year we go to NAMM, which is a convention for artists and musicians and just like all the gear they use and stuff. So we go to it every year and we network. And so we set a meeting with this guy, and we didn't realize all the work that he'd already done. We were huge fans of his work, and we just clicked with this guy. So when he was actually from St. Catharines, we thought he was from Los Angeles, he's from here. So we just got real tight with him, and we ended up working with him. And he produces Nickelback and Shinedown and Pink and like all these really big artists. And we were this little indie band from Buffalo, and we really loved what we were doing. So we ended up, you know, committing to do 3 songs with this guy. We're like, we made it. This is it. We did it. We're going to Los Angeles. And then he's like, well, you guys want to record at Tommy Lee's house? He's got a studio there. You guys can go to his house. I'm like, no, we really made it. That was like just the cherry on top of us working with Chris. So we ended up going to Tommy Lee's house and working in his studio, which is not like a basement studio or anything I've ever seen. It's an old carport. It was like 7 cars wide, and it's like every studio in Los Angeles that shut down because of all the things that happened. He bought all of it and he put it in his house. So different vibe than my life, but we got to hang with him and we got to talk to him about releasing singles and how the business was and what his experience was, and he kind of mentored how we were going to do this single. So we launched this single. We put together a great video. We had the behind the scenes from this place, and I'm doing all the video editing. We put this whole thing together in a barn in Clarence. We got 30 just crazy people to spend the entire day with us, and I mean, it was on a budget of like $2,000. We made this music video, and it went viral, and it got 500,000 views in a very short amount of time. It like piggybacked off of a Katy Perry Roar video. For some reason, they saw us right after Katy Perry. It just kind of kept happening all the time. So we were so excited. We had everything going, and we could not find a band to play these shows. I mean, I actually feel weird saying it in front of other people. It sounds ridiculous, but it's exactly what happened. We couldn't capitalize on the opportunity because we couldn't get players to travel. We couldn't get the budget to pay them. So it was almost kind of the same thing. It was like, it was over, like, it was so big, it was bigger than us. Like, we couldn't really, we didn't have the backing to follow it up. So, but it did get us on the map with a lot of people. We continued the relationship with Chris and Tommy. He got us backstage at a lot of Molly cruise shows, which was a nice little bonus. It wasn't the dream, but it was great. And it also brought us to Nashville with a lot of those producers. And we just became those two weirdos from Buffalo that actually accomplished that, like with nothing. So now, you know, we got confidence in ourselves, I guess, in a weird way. Even though it didn't go how I wanted that to launch our career, and that's it, we're going to be huge. And, you know, we bubbled for a second. And then I was like, well, we did that once, we can do that again. So we just kind of keep grinding. And we keep bubbling and popping. And that's, I'm figuring out, is the music industry. But, so technically, according to my family, that was a failure. But, because that's the same thing, they'll go, what happened with Tommy lately? Can he help you? Is he going to call some people? Like, Tommy can't keep his own, I don't know if you guys have ever followed what's going on with their band, but, like, they're not even really holding it together. So, you know, I'm really learning that nobody really, you collaborate with people, you get a community of people, and you all help each other make something great. But you got to grind it out by yourself. It's just like any other business. And once I wrap my head around that, and that experience of watching my video go viral and sitting in my bedroom in Lovejoy, I'm like, something has been missing in this equation that we have to do this differently next time. So, and we did. So, but that was my biggest career failure. But that was, to me, not a failure, I guess. It's just something to learn from. But it's technically, it's a failure. So that's my little failure story that I've chosen. I have a few. By the way, we're a duo now. We play the tracks, we created a whole system, we don't need people. That is what we learned. Is that right?
Yeah.
We'll never be stuck like that again.
There you
That was
go.
for us.
Everything is a learning opportunity.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what we changed. Sorry.
I think maybe advice to the city of West New York, we could do one of these years.
Got an idea. You should just use the wireless. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, that was fun. I can sit and listen to successful people's trials and tribulations all night long, because I really do think that gives the character that people need to succeed. Christina, we talked about all of your businesses, I believe.
That's it, yeah. I run out of time today.
Jason, we covered the majority of yours, and Nels, we've talked about juggling, but you're also a motivational speaker. So all three of you are entrepreneurs. You're creating, you're moving on to the next level. Nothing seems to slow you down. The failures seem to make you drive harder. So my question, if you can't answer it, do you know what drives you as an entrepreneur to keep going? And do you think it's ever going to be enough? Do you think there's going to be a time where you're going to stop and say, you know what, I've made it, I'm fulfilled, or whatever that drive is? Is it ever going to be enough, or is it you're going to see yourself continuing to evolve and create more venues and more opportunities for yourself?
Can we go the other direction this time?
Yes, I want to hear.
Change it up as long as I go second. Mix it up.
I'm going first. I think I've always had the idea that I want to have a life that I don't want to break from. I guess that's a good way to put it. Like, I just want to have projects that I have passion for, and I feel like if my grandfather lived to be 91, and he was always a musician, and he always played, and he was always, he sold insurance during the day and hung out with my grandma, that was his thing, but he was a tuba player, and he carried this tuba around the fair every summer till he was in his mid-80s, and my grandma had a "I love my tuba player" t-shirt on, and I'd go with him, but I remember always seeing that with him. He never really stopped pursuing the things he loved, so I felt like, it gets scary a lot. I mean, my partner and I are in music together. We're a couple. We've been together for 13 years. He's been my drummer for 17 years since we met when we were kids. But, both of us get a little terrified sometimes. But I think, what I've decided is that it's going to be scary no matter what you do, I'd imagine. I mean, my life has not been, smooth. So I figured, why change now? So I kept doing the things I loved. And I think that keeps me getting up in the morning when I have something exciting that I want to do. And then sometimes, I have a little breakdown where I'm like, why am I taking all this on? And then you hear somebody like, nobody even wants it, and you have to kind of fight the naysayers, and sometimes you're your biggest naysayer. I just try to get that out quick. When the doubt comes in, you try to get it out quick and replace it with, kind of like you do. I mean, I really am a big believer that there's needs to be filled. It's always going on. There's always creativity, and I feel like if I ever stopped wanting to do anything, I mean, I think I would just kind of be like, well, what am I doing? So I would like to have a family. That's kind of my goal, is to be able to be financially abundant enough to be able to somewhat be able to take care of them. Right now they got to come out playing bass or at least work the door. So I have a little more work to do. So I think that we kind of go in phases. We want to buy a house, that's our goal. Okay, we want to be able to live in Nashville and Buffalo, okay, that's our next goal. We want to have a family, that's our goal. And, we want to get into realty, we want to do different stuff. So together we kind of meet up every morning and go, okay, how are we going to get through today? What are we going to do? And, I think having a great partner, I'm sure everybody feels that way. I mean, having a really supportive person that doesn't mind that I pace in my house and I'm like, I don't have an idea today, and I'm like the psycho. And he finds this intriguing and something he wants to be around is like mind-blowing to me. And he's completely different from me. He's very calm. He likes peace. He likes, security and just love and toastiness. And I'm like, let's go. We got to travel. We got to go. I'm like, and he's a great drummer. And but he's really what kind of keeps me going, I think, more than I probably realize every day. But just that he tells me that I'm not crazy. So, because you could have someone in your house that's going, you're acting crazy. You're never going to do this. Why are you doing that? And you can't. So we've just decided to kind of create our own world, and I think I would be very sad if I ever just didn't want to do that anymore. So that's my answer.
You said you pace. How's your water bill? Because I do most of my thinking in the shower.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I just take up the whole house.
I literally, I could do a 30-minute shower where it's just a working session. And luckily not a lot of people watch me shower, but they would think I was nuts if they did. Because I'm drawing in the glass. I wish, never mind. Complacency is the one thing that scares me. If last year was a banner somewhere at the waterfront, the distillery was humming along. It was a beautiful summer. Everything was firing on all cylinders. And what I do, I rested on my laurels and got complacent. Mind you, it was probably for a week, and then that's when things break. So it's the perpetual fear of having things break to keep you honest and to keep you working hard. Like, I would love to be able to sit back and say, all right, it's summer, I got a good manager down at the Kayak Shack, I'm going to go take the summer off and go to Barbados. That's the holy grail, that's the goal. But you can't do that, because the minute you rest on your laurels, something breaks, another fire. Last year we had there was a random boat on the first weekend of summer, Memorial Day weekend on the canal side. There was a boat that caught fire in the middle of the river, and they decided to aim for our dock where we had 4 dozen soft plastic kayaks. And I got a call from a manager saying, there's a flaming boat next to the dock, and the kayaks are melting. And I'm like, who is this? What's going on? And then, I thought it was hallucinating. And then he sent a picture, and then, the next day we dealt with it. And that's the shit you can't make up, and that's what happens if you look in the other way. My personal goal is to be able to retire by 50. For forever, I've always wanted to just build a business and sell it and be able to just rest on my laurels and relax and just, watch the balance grow, in the account. But I know that even if that happened, I would still work. I would stop moving around. So the goal is, especially when you're working for yourself, that paycheck is dependent on you waking up the next day, and probably everybody else's too. But you have to actively earn it. So, financial stability. My goal is to sell a company and be able to retire. Not that I will. And to do that, you just have to be, like I said earlier, you just have to be, it's that sharp thinking. You just have to be moving, because if you're not, something's going to break. It's eventually all going to just die. It's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to be negative. It's just the way. It's the mentality I've had to develop. I think I've probably always had something. Like when I had my normal day-to-day job, I always had something brewing on the side because I had to be doing something else all the time. And it's my own personal flaw. I can't not be doing that. Good question.
Would you ever stop? Would you ever stop?
Oh, whatever. So I guess that's the thing. Is like I would love to be able to stop. Like financially, I want to be able to say I'm going to stop now. I'm going to do this. But I know I never will. It's too much fun. Yeah. But so I mean, the all and all is I want to be able to have a laptop and work from a beach. And I want the beach to be not just in like the cabin in Canada. I want to be able to go to Barbados and work. That's my goal. And then just play with the kids and stuff. So, yeah, goals. Yeah.
And I think I can be content just about wherever I am, but never satisfied with who I am and what I'm doing. We were content when we started out. Even we had our kids young, we had them close together in our tiny little home, 7 people, 1 bathroom. I got Tuesdays every other month, but anyway, and we're content. We're in a bigger house now, but and we're content. But never satisfied because I was coasting longer than a week. It was longer than a week, and it happened after things were going really well. I'm a little bit jealous. I'll be honest. You mentioned all the regular gigs that you do. I've got my base. I've got no base per se. I mean, there are some gigs that I do regularly or semi-regularly, but I've got no, every week I know I'm going to do this. And so, and I thought I had, an idea of, when I have high tide and low tide, and it seems different every year. I don't know, there's a little bit of trend that changes from year to year. So, why did I mention that? I have no idea. So I guess, so when things were going really well, I had a great time. I was doing Festival of Lights, built in, 17 gigs, or all the weekends, November through December, all booked up, and family audiences just built in, coming in to me. I didn't have to go find them, and I was having a blast. And did that for 1, 2, 3 years in a row, and I started to count on that. And then, they pulled the carpet out and said, we're doing something different. And I thought I was going to be like a fixture or whatever, no. So that's, where I was becoming complacent. Then all of a sudden, my November, December looking pretty scarce. And I realized that, I dropped off on all the stuff I should have been doing, keeping up with my contacts and my marketing and all that. So I was coasting, became complacent, and I just became restless. I realized it was because I kind of lost my vision a bit. I love humor. I love play. I think those are 2 key things that are underrated in our lives that we can capitalize on more. That they're really powerful tools that we can use. Having fun for a change, not just having fun for a change, but having fun to promote change, whether it's in a workplace or in our own attitudes. And so I realized that, the power, like these stories that we shared earlier, the power of humor and play at work and how they can affect people. So I know, the physical, the mental, the social benefits, to be more healthy and joyful and connected. Humor has a way of connecting people like nothing else. I wanna foster those things. Wellness and joy and connectivity and all those things together. You put those things together, you're gonna be more productive. You'll have less stress, you'll have less burnout, less sick days at your company, and so on. And so these are things that I can help people with. And so I'm kind of regaining my vision of, help people live, laugh, love, and learn wholeheartedly. So those 4 L's are kind of what I've embraced. And I'm not going to stop.
Did you say you added marketing? Because you said like 5 things that are like the 4 L's.
It's coming together. It's coming together, but it's relatively new.
Like, I can't take it. I
People
don't know what to do.
people are taking notes, so you're doing a great job.
No,
On behalf of the City of Western New York, I want to thank all 3 of you for sharing your evening with us and your stories. Can we give them a round of applause, please?